Hey guys, I'm making this video to help you prepare for the quiz coming up, and it mostly covers long division and synthetic division. So let's go ahead and jump through the first question on the study guide. We've got a big fat polynomial here, and we're dividing that by 4x minus 1. Now this is a case where you can't actually use synthetic division because of this number right here. If that number wasn't there, then you could. Okay, so I got this all copied out. So I need something here to go in this box so that when I multiply it by 4x, I get 4x cubed. So I'm going to put an x squared in here and just check and see if that works. X squared times x to the first is x cubed, and then the 4 comes from here, so that's good. Now if I multiply the x squared by 4x, I've also got to multiply it by that guy. So that's going to give us a minus x squared. Now we're going to subtract. Now I like to think of subtracting more as flipping the signs and adding them up. That cancels. Now we got negative 12x squared, and we're going to bring down the negative 37x. Okay, so now I've got a box here. And let me erase these guys. So with this box, something in there hits the 4x and turns into negative 12x squared. So let's first deal with the sign. I know it's got to be a negative to get the negative 12. And I need a 12, so we're going to put a 3 in here. So that's going to give me 12. 3 times 4 is 12. Now I got x squared, so I need to put another x in here. Okay, so that's going to give me a negative 12x squared, and I've also got to hit this one, and so that's going to give me a positive 3x. Now subtracting, again, subtracting is flipping the signs and adding. So we're going to flip the signs, and that cancels. Now we get negative 40x. We're going to bring down the 10, and so I'm going to put a negative 10. And just check and see if negative 10 was the right one. So negative 10 times 4 is going to be negative 40x. Negative 10 times negative 1 is positive 10. And then we're going to flip those signs, and then we get 0. So we have a remainder of 0. And because we have a remainder of 0, we can say that 4x minus 1 is a factor. Okay. Let's do another one. I'm not going to narrate this one. I'm going to write it out, and I'm going to have you pause this video and solve this out on your own. Then I'm going to do it kind of fast. Okay, so pause the video, give it a go. All right, so we're going to put a 4x squared here. That's going to give me 4x cubed. It hits that guy. We got 8x squared. We're going to subtract, flip those signs, negative 21x squared, bring down the negative 37x. Hang on a second, is that right? Hang on. Let's just check that. 4x squared. So that's going to give me 4x cubed. That's going to give me positive 8x squared. I guess that's right. Okay, all right. I was worried I made a mistake. Negative 21x squared minus 37x. So now we're going to do minus 21x. So negative 21x squared minus 42x. Flip those signs. That's going to give me 5x plus 10. Oh, it is going to work. Plus 5. 5x plus 10. Okay, and so this is your answer, and x plus 2 is a factor. Okay, let's go do some synthetic division now. So now we have this polynomial, 3x to the 4th plus 2x cubed plus 17x squared plus 60x minus 11, and we're dividing that whole thing by x plus 3. All right, so synthetic division, see that plus 3? We're going to flip that to minus 3. We're going to make a deep bracket big enough for 2 rows of numbers to fit in there. I'm going to copy these coefficients, 3, 2, 17, 60, and negative 11. We're going to bring that down. 3 times negative 3, we're multiplying, negative 9. Now we add, negative 7. Now we multiply. Now we add. Now we multiply. Now we add. Now we multiply. Hang on. Now we multiply 75 times 3. What's 75 times 3? That's 225. And now we add, and that's going to be 214. And so we get that ugly remainder, and so we can say x plus 3 is definitely not going to be a factor. Let me just check my work to see if I did that right. 3, 2, 17, 60, negative 11. And we flip the sign. 3, negative 9, negative 7. Oh, hang on a second. I made a mistake. Okay, so the mistake is negative 7 times negative 3 is positive 21. Now that's going to be 38. And then we do 38 times 3. 8 times 3 is 24. That's going to be 114, negative 114. Negative 114 minus 60 is going to be 54. Negative 54. And then negative 54 times 3. What's 54 times 3? That's 162. And so that's going to be 151. Okay, so still not a factor, but hopefully, let me see if I made any other mistakes. No, I think that's right. Cool. Let's do this one. X cubed plus 2x squared minus 9x minus 18. And we're dividing this by x plus 2. So go ahead and pause the video, do the synthetic division. All right, remember, flip that sign. 1, 2, negative 9, negative 18. We're going to bring that down. Now we're going to multiply. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Now we're going to add 0. 0 times negative 2 is 0. We're going to bring that down, negative 9. Negative 9, we got positive 18. Phew, we got 1. It factors. It divides evenly, so we can say x plus 2 is a factor. All right, last one. We've got x cubed plus 2x squared minus 9x minus 18. Now we're dividing by x minus 3. So minus 3, I'll actually pause the video, give it a go. All right, so we got 3. We flip that sign. 1, 2, negative 9, negative 18. Bring that down 1, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, 0. And so this one does go into that evenly. And let's go ahead and flip the page over to the back. Now these ones, I want to make something really clear. On these ones, I have 1. If I write this, then that is actually incorrect because this is x cubed, this is x. So there's nothing for x squared, so I've got to add an x squared in there. So the way to do this correctly is we're going to do a 0, negative 9, and 6. Now that means this is to the third, to the second, to the first, and to the 0th, a constant. And that matches up this better. Okay, so we're going to bring down that 1, we're going to multiply, we're going to add, we're going to multiply, we're going to add, and we get that. And so you can say that x minus 3 is not going to be a factor of that. Okay, just checking that. Oh, hang on. Made a mistake. Okay, this is 0. Multiply this is 0. And then we get 6. Okay, so the remainder is 6. Still not a factor. Okay, what about this one? X to the 4th minus 1 divided by x minus 1. So when we set this up, I've got to do to the fourth, to the third, to the second, to the first, and our constant term. Okay, this is 1x to the fourth, 0x cubed, 0x to the second, 0x, and the minus 1. So we're going to bring that down. We're going to multiply. We're going to add. We're going to multiply. We're going to add. We're going to multiply, and we get 0. And so this does go into it evenly, and our resulting polynomial would be x to the third plus x squared plus x plus 1. Okay, last one. We've got x to the fourth minus 6x squared plus 8. Dividing this by x plus 2. Pause the video and give it a go. Okay, so we flip that positive 2 to a negative 2. We got 1, 0, negative 6, 0, 8. So this is x to the fourth, 0x cubed, negative 6x squared, 0x, and 8. So we're going to bring that down. We're going to multiply. We're going to add. 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 And it does go into it evenly, and the resulting polynomial is x to the third minus 2x squared minus 2x plus 4. Okay, we're going to talk about end behavior now. This is question 4 on the study guide. We've got negative 2x to the fourth plus 7x cubed minus 10x plus 10. So end behavior. End behavior is about what happens when it approaches negative infinity and when it approaches positive infinity. So on a graph, let's just draw this off to the side. This is infinity on that side, negative infinity on this side. Now, when we consider end behavior, the one that's going to be pulling the most weight is this term right here. In fact, as you get closer and closer to infinity, this term is going to dwarf the other terms. We can just ignore them for the purpose of exploring end behavior. Now, to understand what happens when you get closer and closer to here on the negative infinity side, we can plug in negative infinity into this equation itself. So the equation was 2x to the fourth. Let's undo that and call this 2 times negative infinity to the fourth. So that's 2 times negative infinity times negative infinity times negative infinity times negative infinity. So we have, it's a negative 2. And so we've got a negative and a negative will make a positive. A negative and a negative will make a positive, but we still have that minus sign in front of it. So this means as x approaches negative infinity, the y value also approaches negative infinity. And so it's going to go down like that. Same thing if we, let me erase this. So we've got this y equals negative 2x to the fourth. So the same thing if we plug in a positive infinity. Infinity to the fourth is going to be positive, but you multiply it by a negative 2 and it's negative. So as I move to the right, as I click closer to infinity, then my y value approaches negative infinity. Okay, so how to write this in terms of two math sentences. What you're going to say is you're going to say, as x approaches infinity, y approaches negative infinity. And as x approaches negative infinity, y also approaches negative infinity. All right, let's do another one. Another end behavior one. We've got 7x to the fifth minus 6x to the squared plus 2x minus 1. Now again, for all of these, you can ignore that one and ignore that one. And think of a graph. We've got infinity. We've got negative infinity. So let's take negative infinity and we're going to plug it into our equation. So y equals 7 times negative infinity to the fifth. That's 7 times negative, 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 negative. And a negative times a negative is a positive, and now we've got that negative that doesn't cancel out. So that turns into negative 7 times infinity. So it's just negative infinity. So that means over here, as I approach it on this side, I'm going down to negative infinity. And now as I approach it to the right, y is equal to 7 times positive infinity to the fifth. Well, everything here is positive. Infinity is positive, infinity to the fifth is positive, 7's positive, and so now as I move to the right, I'm going to be going up. So, describing the end behavior. I've got a graph that looks like this, and as x approaches negative infinity, then the y also approaches negative infinity. That's this direction here. And as x approaches infinity, as I move in this direction, as I move to the right, then the y value goes up. Okay, really fast. Y equals negative 2x cubed plus 10x squared plus x minus 7. Ignore, ignore, ignore. Because this is cubic, it's going to be like this, or it's going to be like this. Because it's negative, this is our winner. So as x approaches negative infinity, y approaches infinity. As x approaches positive infinity, y approaches negative infinity. Okay, next one. We've got 11x to the 99th plus 9x to the 45th minus 2x to the 32nd plus 8. So what we care about is this one. Forget all the others. Because this is an odd, it's going to be looking like this. Because this is positive, this is definitely what we're looking at. And so we're going to say as x approaches negative infinity, y approaches negative infinity. And as x approaches positive infinity, y approaches infinity. Okay, we're going to talk about question 5. Degree is even. Degree is even. Let's first of all talk about degree is even. If degree is even, it looks like this, or it looks like this. Now, what's the difference? This is coefficient is positive. Example, 3x squared, 7x to the 6th, 10x to the 10th. All these numbers, 3, 7, 10, those are all positive numbers. Now, this is coefficient is negative. What do I mean? Negative 6x to the 2nd, negative 7x to the 4th, negative 9x to the 12th. Okay, so if it is an even degree, like to the 2nd or to the 10th or to the 6th or to the 12th, then it's either going to be a smiley face or it's going to be a frowny face. Now, how do you know if it's a smiley face or a frowny face? If it's negative in front of it, then if it's positive in front of it, it's smiley face. If it's got a negative in front of it, it's a frowny face. So if I had negative 5x to the 10th, well, because it's to the 10th, because this is an even degree, it's either smiley face or frowny face. But because this is a negative, it's a frowny face one. Okay, now let's talk about zeros. Zeros are the same thing as roots, are the same thing as x-intercepts. I should change that a little bit. I should say real zeros. Real zeros are the same thing as x-intercepts. So if you've got something with like this has two real zeros or two x-intercepts. Okay, now let's talk about odd polynomials. Let's say it's x to the 3rd, x to the 7th, x to the 99th. Then they're going to look like this. They're all going to look a little bit different. They're going to be steeper or less steep, but they have that same basic shape. You might also have some wiggles in there. So if it's x to the 3rd plus 2x squared minus 7, then you might have it being like that. Or if it's x to the 7th, you could have a lot of wiggles. X to the 99th, you could have a ton of wiggles, right? So, but all of these are going to look more or less like that. Now, if I have a negative in front of it, negative x cubed, negative x to the 7th, negative x to the 99th, then it's going to change that. It's going to look like that. Might have some wiggles, but it's going to have that sort of end behavior. Okay, that's everything. Hope this is helpful.